Hello everyone! How are you? Fine, thank you. Today I have more Rare Retro Gaming slop that I found at the dump, trademark. And we're going to be cleaning and testing them. So, the big one over here is this Dell Dimension 5100. It's got two optical drives, a DVD-ROM, and I believe that's just plain CD. Okay, so this one has no burning capabilities at all, whereas this one's a CDRW. Is that Ultra Speed? Hard to tell because I don't have enough light, but I'm pretty sure that's Ultra Speed. We have nothing in the 3.5-inch bay here, and we still have the original protective film. Got the power button, the good old Dell logo. Designed for the great OS ever, and we've got the rarer kind of Pentium 4 sticker. The one with a slightly different T and the lowering E. That was only used throughout like most of 2005. Because by 06, they went to the newer style of Intel sticker. Here's the service tag that no longer works. Unlike the Dell Dimension E521 that I used to have, this one has a black sticker, whereas it was gray, and wore out really quickly by the time I got that E521 back in 2018, 2019. And here's a COA for Windows XP Media Center Edition 2005. Go ahead and take it, because I'm pretty sure you can't even use that legitimately anymore. Unless you use XP Activate 32 or Anti-WPA 346, which I'm pretty sure it's pretty hard to get a copy of Anti-WPA these days, because they're all detected as malware. I always found just having this hole here interesting, but yeah, this is for the airflow. And trust me, this system definitely needs airflow, because it's got a Prescott Pentium 4. Only the great Pentium 4 ever. Got the power supply right there, 305 watts. We have 5-to-1 surround sound audio, I believe. A VGA port that's blocked up, you'll see why that is. 3 USB 2.0 ports and another 2, so that makes for a total of 5. We got Ethernet, which is 10100 Ethernet on this board. And we got a basic GPU here with DVI, S-Video, and VGA. Got 2 PCI slots, just not taken up at the moment. We have blanks here, and we have a 56K modem. Pretty much useless, but I guess dial-up was still kind of being used in 2005, but if you bought a computer like this back in 05, then I seriously can't imagine you were using dial-up anymore, as 05 was also the year when broadband internet started becoming more popular than dial-up. Anyway, let's remove the side panel, and ooh, spooder webs. I knew about this. I opened the side panel yesterday. And we have one of those cards that look like a steam engine. Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends be like. I'm just going to go with a basic disinfecting wipe cleaning for this computer, just like I did with this HP Compact D220 yesterday, and also the Dell Dimension L866R, which is currently up in my car at the moment. I found a IDE cable for this, so we have both the optical drive and hard drive working at the same time, and I returned the optical drive IDE cable to the L866R. Well, I got that IDE cable from an HP Pavilion A712N, which I had rebuilt with a Gigabyte G41 motherboard, because this is the original motherboard right here, an MS6577, and it's a piece of junk. It barely even works. And yeah, I had intentionally torn one of the capacitors off. I mean, it doesn't really work, and that's 845 GL, I think, so it's not even worth saving. GL or GV is really hard to tell because MSI made so many different versions of that board, and that one doesn't have an AGP slot, and for some reason has a 400 megatransfers per second frontside bus Pentium 4. If we get a look at this bottom sticker here, we can see that this was manufactured on the 31st of August 2005. The 5100 was a pretty short-lived model, as it was quickly replaced with the 5150. I think this launched in May of 05, and I think it was replaced with the 5150, also known as the E510, or internally known as the DM051, by September of 05. Fun fact, I almost got an E510 back in 2015. That would have been 11 years ago now. Sheesh. But my parents didn't really understand my interest in old computer at the time, so I never ended up getting that. And also, it was filled with, like, cat dander over, like, 10 years. And I'm allergic to cats, so that doesn't help. Here we've got a SATA hard drive. I can pull that out. Yeah, it's Western Digital from the time. 160 gigabytes, manufactured on the 14th of August 2005. This whole computer is almost old enough to drink. I wonder if this hard drive still has its original recovery media on it. That's something we're going to have to check out. But also, the bigger question from there is, does this hard drive even work? Because it is 21 years old after all. I mean, it is a SATA hard drive, so unlike IDE, I have plenty of replacements. I mean, most of them are like 500 gigs, but the more of those 500 gig hard drives I can get rid of in a good way, the better. Okay, now let's just remove this cover over here. Fun fact, I had actually saved the cover from the E510 all those years ago, but eventually it ended up breaking because, you know, naturally it just got thrown around. And I'm going to have to push one of these drives out, or push both of them out so I can undust the tops. Actually, it would help if I unplug them. Oh, by the way, these are IDE drives, so if that works, then that would be really nice. Unfortunately, I'd have to have, like, some blank space, because if I were to add, like, a SATA drive in place, there's only 2 SATA ports on this motherboard, and one of them is already going to the hard drive. Because this was at the time when SATA hard drives were overtaking IDE, but optical drives are still laggards and stuck to IDE. Okay, there's the bottom drive. And there's the top. Top on the left, bottom on the right. The top is a DVD-ROM drive made by Toshiba and Samsung on the 9th of June 2005. And the bottom drive is a CDRW drive also made by Toshiba and Samsung on the 22nd of July 2005. That would have turned 21 years old just 2 days ago. It's the 24th of July as of when I'm recording this. They're actually not that dusty on the top. Usually it's the tops of these drives that get dusty compared to the bottoms. But I'll wipe down the bottoms as well. And both of these have CD audio connectors. And I think they're both jumpered for cable select, which by '05 they definitely should be. Here's the 305 watt power supply. I don't know who the ODM is, but it is 305 watts and it's branded as Dell. It was manufactured in May of 2005, around when this computer model would have released. Also, if anyone knows what this short little stubby connector is, please enlighten me in the comments. I used to have a Dell Dimension 9150 back in 2019, 2020, and that also had this stubby little connector. Although that had a more powerful power supply, which I think was 375 watts, 385. I don't really remember, but it was just more powerful enough to have a 6-pin, because it would have taken a 7800 GTX if it was configured appropriately. But no, it had the same low-end GPU as this, which I believe is an ATI Radeon X300 SE Hyper Memory. If any of you know about that card, then that's the slowest Radeon on PCIe. Oh, also, Dell did a smart, and they included the floppy cable anyway, even though this didn't come with a floppy drive. That's very nice. Oh, and in case you couldn't tell or didn't know, this is a BTX system, and one of the first Dell BTX systems at that. Not the first, though. There was the Dimension 5000 only in Europe before this, in late '04, early '05, I think. And also, specific Optiplex GX280s came in a BTX form, but most of them were in the older ATX clamshell design. Also, we can see that this motherboard was manufactured on the 4th of July 2005. Oh, and what I said about the PCI slots being blank, one of them is actually a PCIe X1. The X1 is below the main X16, and a dual slot card would actually be going up a slot. I know that and remember that because I used to have an Optiplex 755 back in 2014, and in order to get my EVGA GTX 750 to fit back in the day, my dad had to, like, modify the case and modify, like, this area so, like, the fan vents for like airflow would fit, and also modify some of the brackets so, you know, this would go in. And here's the RAM. It's some of the saddest DDR2 that you'll ever see. 256 megabytes per module, DDR2, at 400 megatransfers per second. And this is not even the oldest DDR2 that I have. I have some from, like, September of '04, which I think is also 256 megabyte modules. And they're single-sided just like this, but I think those were at least 533. Oh, and before I close this up, here's a very good thing to see. If we look at the capacitors, none of them appear to be bulging, which is very good. Well, at least they're not bulging yet, because this system was built in '05, and it's still capacitor plague era. Although this HPD 220 over here also doesn't have any blown caps. My old 9150 had a blown cap, and I don't know if that's what took the motherboard, but it's possible that it could have, but funny thing is that it died like a whole week after I installed Windows 10 on it. And Windows 10 took like an hour to install because I installed it with a stock gig of RAM. Oh, and how could I possibly forget? After 21 years of being on there, we gotta do the honors. They say the Dimension 5100 is cringe because unlike the DM051 that replaced it, it can't take a Pentium D. I say it's cringe because it doesn't have PS2, so you gotta use a USB keyboard. So that means no using the KB8923. We're using this Velocifier TKL02. It's just cheap mechanical slop. I got it with a GTX 760 a couple weeks back. Okay, no magic smoke. I heard the drive tray close. That can't be a great sign. BIOS revision A01. I mean, this probably didn't have many BIOS revisions to begin with. No, I did not want to enter the volume screen. I wanted to auto-adjust. 25th of May 2005 BIOS date. Also, this calls itself a Dell System 5100, almost like it's a 286 or something. Let's say Pentium 4, 2.8 gigahertz, 1 megabyte, 521, about the most common cringe Pentium 4 for 775 out there. But at least it has 64 bits. Not like that's very useful on such a CPU anyway, and especially not with 512 megabytes of RAM that's only rated for 400 megatransfers per second. Apparently it will detect if the RAM is ECC or not, although I don't think this can take ECC RAM. Okay, PEG is PCI Express graphics. Slot 4 is communication device, that's the modem. It is not 2:14 PM, it's 12:51, but the date is correct. I don't care about the exact second. Diskette drives. Yeah, USB. We don't have an internal one. So SATA 1 doesn't exist. It's SATA 0 and SATA 2. Yeah, that's off because there's nothing there, but I'm going to turn it on just in case someone does decide to add a second drive. SATA operation, normal combination. Combination mode provides compatibility with some older operating systems that do not support SATA drives. Normal and combination... I guess normal is HCI, but I can't really tell. They word it pretty weirdly. I know in the 9150 they actually worded it as like legacy or ATA emulation mode and or IEE and HCI. We can turn on Pixie Boot, but I'm not going to do that because I don't have a WDS server running at the moment. Enable the integrated audio. Can be 1 megabyte or 8 megabyte for the onboard graphics, which is 945. Hyper-threading, because this is a Pentium 4 that has that. Bypass needed for older drives, quiet, slower but quieter. It doesn't really matter. Execute disable. Yeah, because it's a 64-bit processor, so it has XD bit, so it can run 32-bit Windows 8 and 10, but not 64-bit Windows 8.1 and 10, and especially not Windows Dumpster Fire 11. Event log, 8/31/2005, log area cleared. Fast boot. Numlock key. Post hotkeys. Okay, so we could turn on like one hotkey and disable the other, but why would you do that? Just leave both of them on. But yeah, surprisingly, the clock battery still works. Well, one of the drives keeps closing. I don't like. My leg was in the way of the top optical drive. Oh, no wonder why Dell disables that, because it's going to tell you drive not found, so I guess we gotta go in and disable SATA 2. And if the person really wants, then they gotta enable SATA 2 themselves. Also, because this was just the Dimension 5100, it just calls itself Dimension 5100. It doesn't call itself DM050 or anything like that, unlike the 5150, because once the 5150 came out, that was when Dell started doing this weird dual naming trend, and they started having an internal identifier and just straight up printed that in the BIOS, because they just used the same board for each branding, like the Dimension 9150 and XPS 400. Also, I saw the www.dell.com text up there with a blue bar, so this has it. Does this have it? Girls, you should have deleted your data or your user accounts. Okay, does one of you, like, not have a password? My USB keyboard isn't being detected at the moment. It's being a little slow. Same for my Dell wireless mouse, which I have plugged in as well. Couldn't find the Orochi V2, so I have that plugged in. I can't plug in PS2, so I can't bypass that, so I guess I'm gonna have to wait. Well, for what it's worth, at least both the drives open. Although, I have to pound on the top, and... Oh, this top one isn't doing so great. Oh, finally, I have a working keyboard. It's lagging a bit, but let's see. Which one of you does not have a password? Okay, Elsie doesn't have a password. I might have to point the camera away in case there's some personal background, and oh, that's pretty cringe, bro. Yeah, this is one of those Dells that has the low-pitched wave audio and MIDIs. And that's entirely a driver thing, I think. You could bypass that with like a PCI sound card, but that kind of bothered me about my E521 and 9150. Is that they didn't play that stuff at the correct pitch. And okay, good, it's just a default Dell wallpaper. So that absolutely means that this has it. Turn on the mouse. Also, this has the newer Firefox logo, so this must have been used somewhat recently. Apple Sync Notifier, unable to load component. This must have had malware installed at some point. This has it! This has it! Recovery Media! Okay, it looks like out of the four girls, Leno was the one that owned it. Is Leno a girl's name or a boy's name? I don't know, but the other three were definitely girls. Cool PC. Well, I guess this did look like a pretty cool computer for 05, even though it was very much average silver plastic crap of the era. I find it pretty cool that it's still working and has its original recovery media all these years later. Also, I see a newer Firefox logo, so this must have been used in the 2010s. And also Need for Speed 2 is installed, that's pretty cool. Huh. Earthlink, 6 months included. Is that perhaps one of the included Dell softwares? August 31st of 05, so this is straight up on the original install. Like, the recovery media was never run in the past 21 years, which I guess makes sense. Browse my computer with PaintShop Pro Studio? Really? But no, I want to go into Manage so we can check the event log and see when this computer was last used. Although since there's 4 different user accounts, it might be different for each user. Let's see, application 72426. Okay, that was on me. Okay, it looks like this was last used on the 2nd of October 2017. So, I guess they turned it on pretty sporadically after 2015, but it looks like they got regular use out of this for 12 years. That's even longer than the 10 years that the HP Media Center PCM7334N got. Honestly, kudos to them. Although they did leave this untouched for like 9 years straight. 2011, 2010, for Microsoft Office sessions. Success audit on the 2nd of September 2005. That would have been Junko Kono's 41st birthday. Although she would have been dead for 22 years by then. 9/4/2014. I think that was my first day of middle school, actually. Let's see what programs are installed. I see Mahjong Master SE, America Online, Dell, Modem, NetWaiting. Sonic, I think, is like, okay, it's digital media. That's probably what was included on here. Windows Digital Media Enhancements, because this is MCE. Power DVD. Super Crossword Creator, Super Word Search Maker. These must have been older people that were using this computer if that was the case. Microsoft Office, LimeWire. Of course this has frickin' LimeWire on it. 4.18.8, because everyone had LimeWire. 2010, a pretty late version at that. 5.5, but this says 4.18.8, so I guess 4.18.8 is what they originally installed, but then 5.5 is what they like last updated it to. I really shouldn't be clicking around while it's trying to do things, because this thing has so little RAM. Inbox toolbar, inbox.com, because of course they had toolbars. You know what they say, Hitomi from Madoka Magica will be using Windows XP RTM with 1 billion toolbars on Internet Explorer 6. LimeWire Basic and LimeWire Pro are peer-to-peers. I do not agree to any of the legal stuff, because as we all know, LimeWire was very much not used for legal stuff. I don't think LimeWire 5.5 would even work anymore anyway. It's 16 years old. Digital Blue, Crawler smileys. Are those like desktop smileys or something? Yeah, except it doesn't work anymore because it doesn't have internet, and probably wouldn't work anyway because I guess because either the service wouldn't exist or it can't connect through such an old client. Got the crawler screensavers. Is that something we can access through Windows? Personalize your screensaver. Thank you for choosing popular screensavers. Which you probably can't download any of those anymore anyway. Crawler toolbar, because of course it's a toolbar. TrueSwitch THQ. All Growed Up. Wow, they had a Rugrats game on here, so maybe these people had kids? Dell Support Center, Comcast Rhapsody, Desktop Doctor. Dr. Octagonopus! There's AIM, which I always just called AIM. Adobe Media Player. Success in Spanish. So I guess that's their Spanish tutor of some kind. Oh yeah, I should have figured that this was used into the 2010s because look at that iTunes logo. That's definitely from 2014 specifically. Because by 2015 they introduced the Apple Music icon, which had a different color scheme for quite a while. Electronic Arts, Need for Speed 2, Sonic Stage, Samsung Digimax Viewer 2.1, ArcSoft Photo Impression 4, Galaxy of Games, and it's all shovelware, go figure. Register online, that's telling me enough. Net Zero first month free. Created June 23rd of 2004. Shut up, Norton. Dell printers, Dell support, Dell Picture Studio 3, and Paint Shop Pro. Dell accessories, driver reset tool. I guess that's helpful. Also, I might as well check what graphics card this has. Radeon X300 SE, 128 megs hyper memory. I knew it. Because that's typically what these came with if they did come with a basic graphics card. Anyway, I'm gonna see if any of the other people have different events on their accounts. Slow. I don't miss that about most XP computers, because they weren't upgraded, and usually didn't come with that much RAM. Okay, on Leno's account, we have the Azul wallpaper, based, but you should have set the theme to silver. In fact, I'm going to do that for you. Install Shield Update Manager needs to... There, I fixed your theme. Energy blue is nice, but Azul just is not right without the silver theme. Turns out that the event logs they don't really differ between user accounts. Also, Alo Haiti, welcome to Haiti. Wait, that's music. Where's my flash drive? I'm gonna copy some of that. Oh, that's no good. So this WD-1600JS, 8 megabytes of cache, yeah, typical, 7200 RPM, I'm pretty sure. It's a SATA 300 drive, 1874 power on count, only on for 130 days, so less than 6 months of total on time. It's in caution status, and it's 11C in terms of reallocated sectors. Does that mean 113? I don't know, but that's got to be quite a few reallocated sectors. And I don't think any amount of full formatting is going to fix that. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to run the recovery media probably in a separate video. I mean, this video was supposed to encompass this computer and those 4 laptops over there. But I just ended up going into the Dimension 5100 mostly. So those laptops are going to get a separate video. And the recovery media is getting a separate video as well. But yeah, your CPU-Z. It's a Pentium 4 521, Prescott 1 megabyte. So, not one of the better Prescotts out there. The Prescott 2 megabytes are the better ones, but they are still Prescotts. i945 chipset, it's 945G. BIOS A01 from the 25th of May 2005, we already know that. Memory, 512 megabytes, 200 megatransfers per second from the 12th week of 05. Slots 1 and 2 are filled up. The modules were manufactured by Micron. AMD graphics, or it calls itself AMD graphics here. I'm not even going to bother running CPU-Z benchmark. If yesterday's result with the HP's D220 said anything. And here's GPU-Z, X300 128 megabyte hyper memory, RB370 GPU, 110 nanometer, released in 2004. PCI X16 1.1, X16 1.1. I think that might actually be 1.0, though I don't know if there's really much difference between 1.0 and 1.1. Yeah, there's the ROPs and TMUs, shaders, DirectX 9 support, 9.0A specifically, 1.3 gigapixel per second fill rate, and same for gigatexels. 32 megabytes of DDR on board, so it steals the remaining 96 megabytes from your system memory, which is what these hyper memory cards and turbo cache from NVIDIA were infamous for. Driver date from the 29th of March 2005. That's what Dell had installed. 325 megahertz GPU clock and nearly 300 for the memory. And the BIOS build date is the 21st of June 2005. Here's someone's homework on the book the day it happened. I'm not even going to bother looking in the other two user accounts. I'm just going to turn this off. Look, I know I'm spoiled by newer computers, but can you be any slower than that? There's the low-pitched audio again. Anyway, that'll be it for this video that kind of went off course from what I was expecting. I hope you all enjoyed it, and the next part of this will be running the recovery media on this Dell Dimension 5100. Alright, I'll see y'all in that part. Peace out.